So, do real drums actually sound better than fake drums? Well, the honest answer is they can, but not necessarily. Let's talk about it. So there's been a debate for a long time over real drums versus fake drums, right? And there's strong arguments on both sides, and it gets kind of heated sometimes. The real drum side will say real drums sound amazing, they sound so much better, and fake drums, well, they just sound fake. On the other side, they'll say these fake drums actually sound amazing, especially the ones we have today, and your average listener can't even tell the difference anyway, so why would you bother with all the hassle of real drums? Just use the fake drums. So who's right? So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to answer this question for ourselves once and for all. We are working with this song that we started at the beginning of this series of how I like to record my songs. If you missed the first video, link is in the description down below. But we're going to listen to fake drums, and we're also going to listen to real drums as well and decide which one is better. Okay, so let's dive into this session that we have here. This is the brand new session that I've created. If you watched my last video, I had all my pre-production stuff there. I brought my scratch tracks over here, just exported them out with the effects on them and all that stuff for reference as I'm recording. I have my EZDrummer project up here also with that same MIDI that we had there as well. And then what's new now is these orange tracks here are actually acoustic, real recorded drums. Now, I didn't record these. I actually hired an online session drummer. I've used him several times before. I really like working with him, and it makes my life really easy. I send him my songs, he sends me drums back, right? Sometimes we have a couple revisions, but it's quick and easy and painless, and it's just a lot of fun. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a listen to both of these, the EZDrummer tracks as well as the real drums, and decide which one sounds better. So EZDrummer up first. There we go. So I think those are pretty good sounding drums. Tune Track, they spend a lot of time and money on making these. They're going to sound really good. All right, now let's take a listen to the real drums and see how they sound compared to EZDrummer. So, what do you think? It could be argued right now that the EZDrummer drums actually sound better than the real drums. And there'd actually be a couple different reasons for this. The main one being that if we look at EZDrummer, part of the easy part of EZDrummer is that these drum sounds are pre-mixed for us. That's what makes it easy. They're already recorded really well and they're already mixed for you, and it just makes it easy, right? We have all these different presets that we can choose from here. They have compression, they have EQ, they have saturation, they have reverb, all those things already on them. The real drums that we have here, these don't have anything on them. This is straight off the microphone. There is no compression, there is no EQ, there is no reverb, no saturation. So these are very raw, natural sounding drums. They do not sound finished because they're not, right? I have to mix them when I'm mixing the rest of the instruments and stuff as well. So they're going to sound a bit different. Will these real drums sound better than the EZDrums once I get done mixing them? I don't know. They might not. Either way, that actually has nothing to do with why I'm choosing to use real drums on these songs for this EP. So if I didn't choose to use real drums because they sound better on this project, why did I choose real drums over EZDrummer? Well, there are actually three main reasons why. The number one reason is because I just wanted someone else's influence on my songs for this. So when I do my rock, hard rock, pop punk stuff, I use EZDrummer almost exclusively for that. I like it, programming it. It gets me the sound I want because those genres are typically pretty heavily produced and they almost make the drums sound fake anyways, right? They're usually replacing drums, everything's locked to a grid, and it's easy to get that sound with EZDrummer if I want to. But the problem is it always sounds like me. Like, it's not unpredictable in any way. It's what I had in my head and it just sounds like me, which is cool. But I wanted On this project, this is more of a country, Americana, a little bit of rock thrown in there, and I wanted somebody else's influence on it just to kind of change some things up. And so that's why I hired a session drummer to play on this for me. He does things a little bit differently. He brings his influences that are a bit different than mine, and he'll maybe do a little something different with a kick pattern, or he'll do a cool fill I never would have thought of, or he adds a different hit or a different thing here, or he goes to the ride instead of the hi-hat, whatever. It just changes things up a little bit from what I would have done, and it keeps things interesting for me, kind of adds another level of character or musicianship to the song for me personally. Maybe the person listening doesn't really notice because they don't know what I had in my head, but for me, it keeps things fun, it keeps things interesting, and kind of just pushes me to do some different things. So that's the number one reason, is just to have someone else's influence on my songs. All right, number two reason why I wanted to use real drum on this EP project is just because I wanted a more natural and cohesive and nuanced drum sound. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense on its own. Let me show you what I mean. So let's listen to the real drums first. And actually, I'm just going to solo up the toms, just the toms. And they're not even going to be hit in this example. Nobody's hitting the toms, but listen to what they're doing. They are sympathetically ringing to what's going on around. They are reacting to the rest of the drum kit. When that kick drum hits, they're going to ring a little bit. When the snare drum hits, they're going to ring a little bit. And the toms are the obvious example here, and actually we usually cut all that out or greatly reduce it, right? We're trying to get rid of that to some degree, but it's happening with the other drums as well. When the kick drum hits, the snare drum is going to react. When the snare drum hits, the kick drum is going to react, and all this stuff is going on. And so that all makes the drums sound more like they're all working together as one unit. Plus, you have the sound in the room microphones, and it's bouncing around the room, and all these different cymbal hits and everything are bouncing around. And again, it kind of makes it sound more cohesive, like one instrument instead of individual drums. And there's just a lot of nuance to that sound, and it just sounds more natural and real. And I think a lot of times when people say real drums sound better than programmed drums, I think that this is part of what they're talking about. It's just this interaction between the drums. Now, if we look inside of EZDrummer, it's not quite the same. Like I said earlier, they recorded these really, really well, but when they record the snare, they pretty much just record the snare. They hit the snare a bunch of times, really soft, really hard, and everywhere in between. And those become all the snare hits that we get to access through MIDI. But the snare doesn't really interact with the toms, or the toms don't respond to the snare. So if we play the snare on here, right, it's a great snare sound, but I don't hear anything else reacting to that. If I do this tom, you'll hear they actually did put a little bit of snare buzz in there, but I don't hear a whole lot else going on. All right, same with the kick. So it just doesn't have that same cohesive feel. They do the same thing with tom 1, they record it on its own. Same thing with tom 2, tom 3, tom 4, tom 5, and the kick drum and all the cymbals. They're all recorded independently, and they're almost compartmentalized on their own, right? Now that makes for like a very nice, good, clean, clear sound, but it kind of gets rid of some of that oneness of the drums. Another nuanced thing is, again, I have someone who is very skilled at playing drums, and he can pull out different sounds and different tones just by how and where he hits the snare drum, the ride, the different toms, the hi-hat. He's able to access all these different textures and colors and palettes and stuff within the drum set, right? And so there's a lot of nuance and human touch that goes along with that, and a lot of musicianship. If we look inside of EZDrummer, we have some of that available to us, but not quite to the same level and degree. So if we look at the snare here, you'll see we have our different articulations that are available to us, and we can preview them. We have the center right there. We have a rim shot, right? And we also have edge, which is kind of in between the rim and the center, side stick, and rim only. But we don't have all the varying degrees in between that, get all those nuances like a skilled drummer can on a real acoustic drum kit. So again, number 2 reason for using real drums in these is I just wanted a more natural, cohesive, and nuanced drum sound. I think that complements these songs really well. If it was another genre, something very pop and overproduced, it may not even matter, right? Like I said, I use EZDrummer for my rock stuff all the time because I don't care so much about it in those contexts. And the final number 3 reason why I decided to use real drums on these recordings is it just sounded like fun. Like, that's as simple as it is. Thought it'd be fun to hear some real drums on here. Thought it'd be fun to play to real drums. Thought it'd be fun to mix real drums and just see what happens. So, should you be using real drums on your recordings, or should you be using programmed drums? It doesn't matter. That's the honest answer. It really doesn't matter. If you want real drums for whatever reason, and you want to spend the money on paying somebody to record or play drums for you, or you want to buy the gear and record drums yourself, go for it, right? Go for it, do it. And yeah, have fun with it. If you don't want to spend that much money, or you can't spend that much money, and you can get EZDrummer or Superior Drummer or Steven Slate drums or any of the free options they have out there as well, go do that. Don't let real drums or programmed drums keep you from writing, recording, and releasing music, because in the end, it doesn't really matter. I mean, listen to a lot of stuff that's on the radio and popular right now. I mean, most of it sounds really fake anyways, right? But again, don't let it stop you. You should have seen what I was using way back in the day when I was recording my 4-track with my drum machine. Was it Boss DR770, I believe it was. That thing sounded so fake and so, it didn't matter what I did to it. I spent hours trying to tweak that stupid thing, and it always sounded fake. But you know what? I still recorded music. I still burned off CDs and handed them out to people and released music. So don't let it stop you. All the stuff these days sounds so good compared to what you've had before. We really live in a time where you can really make great sounding music at home. So go make music. Next video is how I record bass. So like and subscribe, get notified of that video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.